The moment the receptionist told me my name wasn't on the guest list, it felt like a slap across my face. I clutched my purse, struggling to breathe. That must be a mistake, I mumbled, forcing a smile while turmoil brewed inside me. She's my sister, I added. The receptionist, with her perfectly straightened blonde hair and a look of uncomfortable sympathy, skimmed the list again. I sensed she wouldn't find my name. My heart dropped. Could you check again? I asked, voice remaining calm despite everything. She nodded, flipping through the pages as the celebratory sounds from the ballroom seeped into the lobby. After what seemed like forever, she looked up, apologetic. I'm really sorry, Miss Carter, but your name isn't here, she repeated softly. Sofia is my sister, I insisted. I should be listed. Her eyes darted around, ensuring nobody would overhear. Speaking quietly, she admitted it wasn't an error. My mother had requested my exclusion. For an instant, all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. I'm sorry, what? I stammered, refusing to believe it. She continued, hesitating. Your mother instructed us not to admit you. I felt cold, beyond betrayal. This was a new low, even for her. I considered causing a scene, but what would that solve? Would Sofia be clueless, or worse, complicit? I couldn't make a fool of myself here. If they wanted me out, I'd leave. I laid down the gift I made at the check-in counter. Please ensure this gets to the bride, I requested. The card simply read, for Sofia, wishing you happiness, and walked calmly to the exit. People whispered as I passed, but I maintained my poise until stepping into the Chicago night. The city's vibrancy was a stark contrast to my inner turmoil. I fumbled for my phone, pondering my mother's long-standing favoritism. Sofia was always the star, and I was merely the afterthought. Despite sacrifices, love in our home was never unconditional, always transactional. I swallowed my pride and called Sofia. It rang unanswered, going straight to voicemail. Maybe Sofia was unaware, or maybe she did know. I tucked my phone back, hailing a cab, ready to leave behind a celebration I was never meant to join. I was determined not to shed a tear, not at that place, nor at that moment. However, one thing remained irrefutably clear. If they had chosen to expunge me from their lives, I would ensure they would rue the day. This was not my story's conclusion, it was just the prologue. The cab ride back home seemed more like a whirlwind. The glittering city lights flitted by the window, neon signs casting strokes of color across the glass, yet I barely registered them. My fingers rhythmically drummed against my purse, my mind racing through countless possible explanations. The receptionist's voice echoed in my head. Your mother personally requested your name be removed. I released a shaky breath, resting my forehead against the cool pane of glass. My own mother, Victoria Carter, hadn't just blotted me out of the wedding but erased any representation of kinship. The most painful part was I should have anticipated it. My mother had never disguised her perception of me as a nuisance. Sofia had always been her flawless child, the golden daughter who could do no wrong, adhering perfectly to the life's blueprint, prep school, an Ivy League law degree, a fiancé with an impressive surname. Compared to that, I was merely an afterthought, the girl who squandered her potential on a modest nursing career instead of something prestigious. The one who sacrificed her youth caring for a dying father instead of pursuing ambition. Never enough. Yet, what tormented me most wasn't the evident favoritism. It was the deception. I had begun to recognize I wasn't just overlooked, I had been deliberately erased. I fished out my phone, scrolling through years of texts, outdated messages that abruptly took on new significance. Hey, I sent you a birthday gift. Let me know once you've received it. Thinking of you today. Let's catch up soon. Read at 9:43 p.m. No response. Hope the bar exam went well. I'm so proud of you. Left undelivered. I had repeatedly convinced myself Sofia was merely preoccupied, swamped by law school and work. But what if she had never got those messages? What if my mother continuously filtered everything to ensure I was merely a distant shadow in Sofia's life, a spectral sister? With my stomach churning, I shoved my phone back into my purse. I had to halt the futile inquisition and commence seeking answers. I knew precisely where to start. Upon entering my apartment, I headed directly for my bookshelf. Nestled amidst old medical textbooks and partially read novels was a small wooden box. I retrieved it, my hand steady despite the inferno in my chest. Inside lay neatly folded receipts, bank statements of every check I'd ever written for Sofia over the years, her tuition, her rent during tough times in law school, textbooks. I sacrificed my savings, my security, my future, ensuring she had every opportunity to succeed. In return, I'd been wiped from existence. Drawing a deep breath, I willed my fury to remain contained. Emotions poorly served my purpose now. This was beyond betrayal, it was robbery. Placing the box on my desk, I opened my laptop. If my mother had gone to such lengths to erase me, I planned to ensure she'd regret the decision. I sought no vindictive revenge. I craved justice, truth. My mother needed to understand. I wasn't someone who'd vanish quietly. I began investigating financial records, scouring bank statements, pinpointing every dollar forwarded to Sofia, emails, old correspondences back during times she feigned my inclusion in family. Legal documents, a file I had sealed post my father's passing, the one with details of his life insurance payout. That's where I discovered it. A significant deposit, one intended for me from my father's policy that never reached my account. My breath faltered as I clicked further. The payout had been redirected, signed over to another name, Victoria Carter. A nauseating twist wrenched my stomach. She had taken my inheritance, stolen from me. And not just money, my choices, my opportunities, my independence were gone. She had taken the last of my father's bequeaths and used it to fuel Sofia's dream life, uphold the pristine Carter family image. My hands curled into fists. For years I bore guilt, convinced I had chosen this life, willingly sacrificing for Sofia. But now I realized I'd never been offered a choice. That night, insomnia consumed me, so I continued digging. I contacted my bank, pulled credit reports, reached out to an old accountant my father trusted. Bit by bit, the entire picture solidified. The life insurance payout intended for me, redirected. The college fund I contributed towards Sofia, depleted without my knowledge. The birthday gifts, letters, and messages sent to Sofia, intercepted, never delivered. Victoria Carter had maneuvered me into nothing more than a marginal note in our family story, a mute ATM without voice, presence, nor place. And now, she had completed the severing, ensuring I wasn't invited to the wedding, meant to symbolize family unity. She erased me. But she didn't realize, I just unearthed evidence capable of shattering the flawless narrative she'd constructed. Staring at my laptop screen, the incriminating evidence before me resembled a loaded gun. Everything needed to unveil her true identity to everyone she deluded, Sofia, wedding guests, the society, desiring their affirmation. I possessed the equivalent to dismantle her world with a mere email, yet wasn't hastened.
No.
She had invested years fabricating her perfect saga, taking my time with the lies. I would unravel them methodically. When the opportune moment came, catching her off guard, Victoria Carter would come to understand the feeling of being erased, of becoming nothing. My mother always underestimated me, but she was wrong to think I'd vanish. I don't fade into the background. I fight. I glared at my laptop screen, its glow casting harsh shadows across my room as the financial records unfolded before me. Everything was there, each wire transfer, every redirected deposit, and all the life insurance money meant for me, but stolen by my own mother. Victoria Carter spent years plotting my erasure, but she was mistaken to believe she'd succeeded. Her coldness never surprised me, yet the cruelty of her public facade did. Perfectly composed in public, she wore her perfection like a designer coat, craving admiration. I knew exactly where she was. Following the wedding's aftermath, she'd be at the Hanover Club, enjoying brunch and embedded in high society gossip, a world where reputation was currency. Victoria had tirelessly worked to erase my existence, but I was ready to exploit her throne's cracks. By noon, I had amassed all the evidence needed, financial documents, bank records, and careless emails that connected the dots. I had no intention to destroy her in anger. It wasn't my style. Instead, I'd ensure she felt secure before pulling the rug from under her. I phoned my mother, breaking our silence, and she answered on the third ring, her tone smooth like she'd prepared for this talk. "Elena," she greeted, feigning surprise at hearing from me. She believed she had severed ties for good. "Time to talk," I stated, maintaining composure, suggesting a meeting. After a pause, she agreed, unwillingly, to my idea of clearing the air, a concept she latched onto amidst her control and victory mindset. When I arrived, the Hanover Club was unchanged, steeped in old money and whispers. Victoria's entrance was triumphant, her aura basking in self-assuredness. "Elena," she said, seating herself opposite me without pretense. "You look well," she added, expecting me to appear broken, but I contradicted her with a smile. "So do you," I lied, indulging her illusion of winning for 5 minutes before breaking it. "You know," I started, placing my phone on the table, "I never believed you would cut me off entirely." Victoria sipped her tea, arching a brow. "You excluded yourself, my dear. You were always difficult." Her excuses disguised the truth. She stole from me and lied to me, all under the guise of discipline. But I was aware now. Pulling a document from my purse, I slid it to her. Her expression remained unchanged until she identified it, a copy of the misdirected insurance payout meant for me. Watching her color drain, I said, "That money should have been mine. Dad intended it for me." She hesitated, arrogance faltering, claiming it was for the family. But I corrected her. "No, it was for you." For the first time, I witnessed her fear, not of me, but of losing control. Acknowledging the power I held, I declared, "I'm not here to argue, but to offer you a choice." Her mask slipped slightly. "A choice," she echoed. "Yes," I affirmed calmly. "Either you rectify your wrongs, or I will." I allowed her to grasp the severity, for I wasn't bluffing. I possessed the proof required to ensure that outcome. I and Victoria Carter's flawless social circle. Everyone knew her true nature. She might attempt to combat me or fabricate another lie, but deep down, she understood that this time, victory was not on her side. Her kingdom was built on unstable grounds, and I was preparing to bring it down. When she reached for her tea, her fingers showed a small tremor, barely visible, but noticeable to me. In that instant, I caught sight of Victoria Carter's realization that she had lost control. She spoke at last, her voice clipped and thin. "Fine. What do you want?" I couldn't help but smile. Now we were getting somewhere. Throughout her life, Victoria had manipulated narratives, weaving lies so effortlessly that people accepted them without question. She held a belief in the permanence of her power, the invincibility of her reputation, and considered the truth merely a story she could mold. Today, she was about to comprehend her flawed perception. As she reviewed the redirected life insurance payment, intended for me but mysteriously credited to her account, her expression remained inscrutable. However, I recognized the subtle tension in her jaw, the deliberate inhale as she attempted to calm herself. She was calculating her chances, pondering whether to deny everything or to maneuver an escape. I remained silent, letting it stretch unbearable until she folded her hands over the paper and smirked, coldly, calculatingly. "You're being dramatic, Elena," she accused lightly. I couldn't help but chuckle at her audacity to even gaslight me in light of undeniable proof. It was indeed dramatic, as I repeated with a tilted head. "Mom, you stole money that was legally mine. How is that even considered dramatic?" She exhaled as if speaking to someone immature. "I did what was necessary," she responded smoothly. "There were obligations and expenses left by your father. I did what I thought was best for our family." "No, it was best for you," I corrected. Her polished facade began to show cracks as she tried to regain composure. "Let's face it, you never believed I would uncover the truth, did you?" The silence underscored her speechlessness. She was so assured of my absence and compliance, my shadowy presence in this family, someone who never questioned or retaliated. She had not prepared for a version of me that would fight back. Clearing her throat, she forced a smile and asked, "So, what exactly do you want?" Her tone lacked control and instead bore traces of fear. After a pause to savor her discomfort, I finally replied, "I want my money, every last cent." She scoffed, "You can't possibly." I calmly presented a second document, a legal demand letter I had arranged after consulting an attorney. The file outlined the misappropriated amounts, proof, and the legal consequences if restitution wasn't made. As her gaze darted over the letter, I observed her fingers barely trembling as she placed the letter down again. "You genuinely follow through with this?" she queried, now speaking softly. I affirmed, "You left me no choice." The room steeped into silence, heavy and daunting, as she began to internalize the reality. This was a promise, not merely a threat. Victoria Carter didn't concede that day, nor did she explicitly admit defeat. But in her eyes, I discerned the conflict. This was not solely about money. A public scandal would ravage her far beyond financial loss. It would obliterate her reputation. For someone like Victoria, reputation was priced higher than any monetary value. The following day, my sister Sofia texted, "Mom's been acting strangely, asking about you. What happened?" Her inquiry lingered long before my response. She finally got caught. "What are you talking about?" Sofia replied, "I encouraged her. Ask her." Because, above all, Victoria had never prepared for her ideal daughter to uncover the truth, a card I was poised to play. It took a mere 3 days for fractures to become irreparable. By then, Sofia was at my door, demandingly in pursuit of the truth. In the end, it was Sofia confronting Victoria. I needn't witness it. Victoria would predictably deny, deflect, claim victimization. But Sofia no longer possessed the naivety from 1 week ago. When she confronted our mother and decisively declared, "I know what you did," it marked the end. This wasn't merely built on real strength. It rested on the unwavering belief in Victoria's narrative. But it was now crumbling. Victoria Carter had spent years cultivating an empire built on deceit. She controlled narratives, molded perceptions, and crafted the perfect image of a mother, widow, and woman of class. However, illusions crumble when scrutinized closely. This awakening began with whispers, glances, and unanswered invitations. Society has no mercy for vulnerability, and the same high society figure she once was became an epitome of scandal. By the end of the week, I retrieved my money. Victoria resisted. She delayed, pleaded, and even offered me hush money to silence the truth. I declined because it was more than about money. It was about consequences beyond dollars. It was about the one thing she cherished over everything, her legacy. Sofia knew the truth, and soon everyone else would too. I didn't have to destroy her. She accomplished that herself. Women like her never change. They just find new avenues to manipulate others. This time, she was isolated. Seeing Sofia pull away from her, witnessing the panic in my mother's eyes when she realized she had lost, gave me a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. Victoria had wiped me out, stolen from me, and rewritten history until I barely existed. But ultimately, she became nothing, not me. I finally began anew on my own terms without her shadow. I should have felt triumph, yet watching her world disassemble wasn't as satisfying as expected. She was already void, consumed by efforts to erase me and manipulate Sofia once more. She retained no family, power, or allies. My restored inheritance meant I could venture anywhere, erase myself from my family's history as she attempted to do. However, I opted to rebuild my life as it should have been. I relocated to a new apartment, free from financial stress. I left my deleterious hospital job for a role at a private clinic where my contributions were appreciated. I traveled, immersed in books, and truly began living. Decisions were finally mine, uninfluenced by obligation or sacrifice. Sofia took more time to heal, which I understood. Her entire life was shaped under our mother's narrative. Unraveling those lies required time. Gradually, Sofia perceived our mother's true nature, first hesitating at calls, then ceasing defense. One evening, she appeared at my apartment. Confiding her disbelief in not realizing the truth earlier, we bonded over coffee as sisters should, not as adversaries nor merely Victoria Carter's daughters, but simply as Elena and Sofia. I met my mother one final time, unplanned, on a brisk fall morning rich with aromas of coffee and burnt leaves. Seated alone at a cafe, the woman who once commanded rooms was now another forgotten figure. She met my gaze fleetingly, offering no apology or acknowledgement, just a hollow smile before looking away. In her mind, Victoria Carter never yielded. She adapted. I no longer obligated myself to make her see me, so I walked away for good. Reclaiming oneself is a journey and doesn't manifest in a singular event. It transpires over small moments, when laughter isn't an appeal for approval, when planning a trip doesn't invite criticism for perceived impracticalities, when you face the mirror and truly recognize the reflection. My battle was not against destroying my mother, but in creating a life authentic to me. The best revenge wasn't in her ruin, but in leading a life beyond her influence. Betrayal appears in various forms, sometimes evident, at others subtle. A deeper inquiry follows. What comes next after revelation? If someone erased your existence, robbed you, rewritten your narrative without permission, what course of action would you choose? Would you retaliate or step aside to construct something more meaningful? Share your experiences. I'm eager to hear your stories.